So in this video we'll be going through the GCSE Maths AQA 2018 November Foundation Paper 3. Now if you haven't got access to a copy of this paper, there will be a link in the description below. So getting straight into the first couple of questions. So the first couple are going to be multiple choice. So the first one is add 8mm to 7cm. Now when dealing with mixture of units, what you want to try and do is make sure that they're all in the same units. Now 8mm is 0.8 centimeters, so you're adding 7 plus 0.8, which gives me an answer of 7.8. For question 2, it says in a pie chart one sector is a quarter of the data. What angle is that sector? So imagine that a pie chart is a circle and you want a quarter, so therefore it's going to be 90 degrees. So it's the fourth option. And then which of these cannot be the number of lines of symmetry of a triangle? And the correct answer there you should have is 2, because you could have a scalene triangle. One is either isosceles or a right angle. Not all all isosceles will have one, not all right angle triangles I should say. And an equilateral triangle will have 3. So 2 is the correct answer for that one. For question 4, it says circle the fraction which is equal to 0.12. Now, the common answer that people would write would be this one because it's got a 12 in. However, 0.12 is the same as 12 over 100. And again, the reasons why it's 12 is because that's the digits after the decimal point. And the reason why it's 2 zeros is because I've got 2 numbers after the decimal point, so it's over 100. And then if I simplify that fraction, I can divide both numbers by 4, in which I get 3 over 25. So the correct answer is 3 over 25. For question 5a, I've got n plus 7. I'll get n by itself, so I need to get rid of the 7. So I take away 7. So I've got 103 take away 7, which gives me 96. And then for b, the opposite of dividing by 6 is to times by 6. And so 12 times 6 is 72. Moving on to question 6. So question 6 says here is a plan of a flat with 4 rectangular rooms, and it's got there, it's on the grid on the opposite page. Make an accurate scale drawing of the plan. Use the label and label each room. Now we're going to use a scale of 1 centimeter equals 2 feet. So if I just scroll down, so here we've been given some squared paper, and I've got a copy of the diagram so I can actually draw it as we go along. Now the key thing is accuracy and making sure we're using a ruler for this. Now, in terms of the dimensions, I can label the dimensions. Well, if 1 centimeter represents 2 feet, then this is going to be, let me just get a thinner pen, like so. So 8 feet is going to be 4 centimeters. That's going to be 6 centimeters. That's going to be 4 centimeters. That's going to be 7 centimeters. That's going to be 6. That's going to be 4. This is going to be 5, and this is going to be 3. Now in terms of the dimensions that I don't know, which is this length here, well, if those two numbers added together give me 8, and these two numbers here added give me 11, then that must mean that this gap must be 3 centimeters. So first things first, I'm going to pick a starting position. So let's pick this corner here, and I'm going to start it at this corner here. Now I'm going to try and set a good example of using straight lines. I can actually use rectangles for this. So for the first one, I'm going to do a 4 by 3 grid. So 4 by 3. Now this is going to be a little bit, there we go. And then our next one is 6 by 4. So we've got, there's our 6, and our 4 is about there. And then my next one, that'll be helpful, is going to be, so if I had draw the, what room is it, the bedroom, and that is going to be 5 centimeters down, so 5 boxes down, which works out to be about there. And then I've got the living room to do, which is 7 squares down. Again, not the best. It'd be so much easier if I could draw this on paper. be the case, and then just need to make sure that that's correct there. So in terms of the dimensions, that's what you should have. And again, we just need to label each of the rooms. So this here is the bedroom. This here is the bathroom. This here is the kitchen. And here is the living room. Groups of numbers A and B. It says one number is moved from A into B, and the sum of numbers in B is now 20 more than the sum of the numbers in A. Which number has moved? You must show you working out. So for this, what we need to do is work out the total amount for each of those two groups. So here we're looking at the total of group A. And again, if I just do 19 plus 11 plus 14 plus 16 plus 32 plus 9, I get an answer of 101. And if I then do the total of group B, I get 31 plus 18 plus 28 plus 12, which gives me an answer of 89. Now looking at the difference, so in terms of this, what I then need to do is I need to do 101 minus 89, which will give me the difference. I need to add 20 to that. Now if I work that out on my calculator, I get an answer of 16. So it's 16 that needs to be moved across for there to be a difference of 20. Now moving on to question 8. Now for this it says Beth sells hot dogs at a market. Each dog is a sausage with in a bread roll, and they're selling hot dogs for £3. The table shows her cost. So the fee to pay to the market is 240. Bread rolls 42 pence per pack of 6. Sausages £2.50 per jar of 10, and the other costs are £57. And she sells 300 hot dogs, and not actual dogs. Hopefully it's normal sausage meat that goes in, not dog meat. Anyway, digressing. So in terms of this, the question is asking us to work out the total profit. So first of all, the selling cost is going to be, now we're just going to assume that she's sold 300 hot dogs, and that's how much, there's no wastage. So she's made 300 hot dogs and she's sold them all. So here we're going to do 300 times 3, so it works out to be £900. So that's how much she's made on the day. So next thing we then need to do is work out what the other costs are going to be. So for this, we need to look at how many packs of 6 do we need to do. So in terms of packs of 6, so if I do 300 divided by 6, and that's going to give me an answer of 50 packs is how many I'm going to need. Now 50 packs, if I times that by 0.42, is going to give me an answer of, and again I just get my calculator and do 0.42 times 50, and it gives me an answer of £21. And then how many 10s going, so I do 300 divided by 10 because I need to work out how many jars I'm going to need, and that's going to be 30 jars. So if I'm buying 30 jars at £2.50, so I'm going to do 2.5 times 30 equals £75. So, and all I've done there is times that by 2.50. So in terms of the actual cost to produce these hot dogs and also to sell them, I need to add 240 plus 21 plus 75 plus 57. So if I just scroll down a little bit and use different color, so the production costs, I'll say production costs, but in terms of Beth's costs, we'll call it, it's going to be 240 plus £21 plus £75 plus £57. And if I type that into my calculator, so 240 plus 21 plus 75 plus 57 comes up to a total cost of 393. Now in terms of the profit, then that's going to be £900 minus 393, and again enter that on my calculator. It gives me an answer of £507. Now, one thing you just need to make sure that you're including all of this working out in your answers as well here. And again, looking at the key bits, so if I just write £507, that should be absolutely fine for that. Now, moving on to question 9. So here what we're looking at is company sells houses. The line graph shows the number of sold per week for 30 weeks. It says work out the range of numbers per week. Now the range is going to be basically these numbers here. So it's not the number of weeks, it's basically the number of houses. So it's 5, take away 0, which just gives me an answer of 5. Now the B then says work out the median number of houses sold per week. Now to work out the median, I'm looking for the 15th number. Or it's actually going to be between the 15th and the 16th number. So what I need to do is find out where the number 15 comes in. So here I've got 2. Then I've got, so if I just do a running total, so let me just write up all of these totals. So 6, 9, and 6. So if I do running total, I've got, and I want to stop it when I get to 15, 16. So I've got 2, 6, 9, and then 15 is going to be here. And so it's going to be roughly about 3.5. It's going to be halfway between here. So the median number of houses sold per week is going to be 3.5. Then C, it then says the company sells 3 houses and the prices are 1,850, 185,000, 239,000, and 136,000, and the company earns 2% commission on each house. In total, how much commission does the company earn on these 3 houses? So what we need to do here is work out 2% of each of these houses. So for the first house, I'm going to do 85,000 times 0.02. Then I'm going to do 239,000 times 0.02. And I'm going to do 136,000 times 0.02. And again, if I just work that out on my calculator, so 185 times 0.02 gives me £3,700. And then 239,000 times 0.02 gives me 4,780. And 136,000 times 0.02 equals 2,720. So all that I need to do is add those 3 amounts up, plus 3,700, and I get an answer of £11,200. Not bad in terms of commission. I'll reserve judgment on estate agents. So in terms of the next question, question 10, it says that in a game, a fair spinner, it has 5 equal sections are as shown. And it says that Chloe spins the spinner, as you do, write down the probability that she gets a miss a turn. Well, miss a turn appears 1 out of 5, and that is the probability 1 out of 5. It then says that the spinner lands on go back to 1 square 3 times in a row. Jamal is next to spin. Work out the probability that he gets a go back to 1 square. Now, you'd expect all the spins to be independent, so not having an effect. So that's just going to be exactly the same. So it's going to be 1 over 5. Then moving on to question C, it says in one game there are 85 spins. How many of these spins are you expected to go forward 2 squares? Well, going forward 2 squares, there are 2 possible outcomes for that. So it's going to be the probability, which is 2/5, times the number of spins, which is 85. And if I type that all into my calculator, so I've got 2/5 times 85, I get an answer of 34. And there we go. Now the next question then says circle the cube number. Now for this, if you're not too sure about your cube numbers, all you need to do is on your calculator type in cube root of each of these and see which one of these answers will give you a whole number. So if I was to quickly load up my calculator, like so, and again, let's just get rid of this menu screen. So here, if I press shift and the square root button, the cube root comes up. So cube root of 9, no. So let's try cube root of 10,000. No, let's try the cube root of 333. No, and so it should be the last one. 729 equals, yes it is, so this is my correct answer. For question 12, it says how many minutes are there in 225 seconds? Well, what we need to do is work out how many 60 seconds there are in 225. So 60, 120, 180, 240. Well, it's going to be basically 180 plus 45 minutes. And so it is going to be 3 minutes and 3/4. And there is my final answer. For question 13, it says that a small square has a length of x and a large square has a length of 15. The area of the small square is 1/9 of the area of the large square. Work out the value of x. So what we need to do here is first of all work out what the area of the big square is. So area of large square is going to be equal to 15 times 15, which is 225. I then need to work out what 1/9 of that area is. So if I do 1/9 times 225 gives me 25, and this is the area of the small square. So to work out the length of x, what I need to do, so x is going to be the square root of 25, which therefore is 5 centimeters, and there is my final answer. For question 14a, it says the term-to-term rule of a sequence is add 5 divided by 2. If the first term of the sequence is minus 24, write down the next two terms. So what I need to do, so for the next term, it's minus 24 plus 8 and then divided by 2. So again, if I type that all into my calculator, I'll work it out. So here I've got minus 24 plus 8, press equals, divide by 2, gives me an answer of minus 8. And because it's the term by term, I've got to use the previous answer. So I'm going to add 8 and then divide by 2, and that gives me 0. So the two numbers are going to be minus 8 and 0. So looking at question 15, it says describe fully the single transformation that maps A to B. So what we need to do first is establish which shape is it that we're starting with, which is shape A. And we're going to go from shape A to shape B. Now the question is saying what transformation. Now there are 4 types of transformations. We've got translations, we've got enlargement, we've got reflection, and we've got rotation. And so what we've got to do is we've got to go through this list and decide which transformation it actually is before we start going into further detail. So in terms of translation, what that means is, does shape B look exactly like shape A but in a different location? No, because it's been knocked on its side and it's been fallen flat. So it's definitely not translation. Has the shape of A altered in any shape? Has it got bigger or smaller? No, so it's definitely not an enlargement. Now, if it was a reflection, then the shape of B would either look like this or it would look like this. And unfortunately, B is neither of those. So the only one it can be is rotation. So I'm going to get 1 mark for simply writing rotation. Now the next thing we then need to do is decide where is my center of rotation. Now if you've got tracing paper in the exam, you can request it if it's not on your desk, but you just want to mess around and see what the center of enlargement is going to be. But the center of enlargement here is 0, 0, so the origin. Now with rotation, what we need to do is we need to go from a direction. So I could either go in the direction of, let me just use a different color. So I could either go this way or I could go this way. Now if I imagine that this here is my starting point and this is basically where B needs to be, then I could either call that as a 90-degree anti-clockwise, if I can spell it, which I clearly cannot. There we go. Or I could say it's going to be a 270-degree clockwise. And so either of those two added on to the center being the origin and rotation will be good enough to get you the 3 marks. So moving on to question 16, it says Amal drives her car to work. She claims 40 pence per mile from her employer. And Amal's car travels 52 miles for each gallon of petrol, which is actually not that bad. And she pays £5.36 per gallon for petrol. On one journey, Amal drives 260 miles. For this journey, how much more does she claim that she pays for petrol? So the first thing we want to look at is how much money is she actually claiming for. So let's have a look in terms of how much she's going to be claiming. Now she's claiming 40 pence per mile and she's traveling 260. So if I do 260 times 0.40, because I'm going to work in pounds, and on my calculator, that's going to give me an answer of, so I'm going to do 260 times 0.40 equals 104 pounds is what she's claiming for. Now let's have a look at how much she's actually paying, or how much she needs to claim for. So again, what I need to do first is work out how many gallons is she actually paying for. So I've got to divide 260, and I'll just get a different color pen. Let's go for blue. So we're going to do 260 divided by 52, because we're going to work out how many gallons of petrol that she's actually going to need. And if I do 260 divided by 52, gives me an answer of 5. So I'm going to need 5 gallons of petrol. Now, in terms of that, then I then need to multiply that by £5.36. So 5 times 5.36 equals £26 and 80 pence. And then from this, what I need to do is work out the difference. So for this, the difference between the two amounts is going to be 104 minus £26.80. And I work that out by typing those into my calculator. 104 take away 26.8, and I get a final answer of let's try that again. 104 minus 26.8. I get an answer of £77 and 20 pence. And there we go. And probably need to write it in the space there. There we go. Now with question 17, it's looking at scale drawings. So here what we need to do, the question says, here is a map of Cuba, a lovely country, definitely recommend you go on holiday there. It says that 1.5 centimeters represents 200 kilometers. And the question is asking us to work out the actual distance from Havana to Holguín. Now, in terms of this, first thing we need to do is, accurately as best that we can, is to draw a straight line from Havana to Holguín. Now it just makes it a little bit easier when you're using your ruler to actually do just that. I don't know why this doesn't seem to want to work. So let's try this again. And get it to Holguín. There we go. So what we want to do is measure what this distance is. Now this is going to be very difficult because I haven't got a ruler on the computer for us to do this. But what we need to do is that we know that 200 kilometers is equal to 1.5 centimeters. Now, if it was simple as 1 centimeter, then that would be brilliant. So what we need to do is actually work out how many kilometers there are in 1 centimeter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both these two numbers. What am I doing? There we go. I'm going to divide both these numbers by 1.5. And so what I get is I get 1 centimeter equals, and it's going to be 133.3 recurring kilometers. So 1 centimeter is 133.3 kilometers. So what we then need to do is measure the line, or what you need to do, I should say, is measure the line in centimeters and then multiply the answer by 133.333 recurring. Now, the typical answers that people got were, to get full marks, were something along the lines of 600, 613, 626, 627, 640, or 653. Now you may have got some decimal numbers, but as long as your answer is relatively close to those, you're going to be absolutely fine to get full marks. But they're definitely looking for somewhere in your working out 133.3 recurring being representative of 1 centimetre. Now moving on to question 18. So it says 4 friends all give each other presents. The total cost of the presents is £83.40. Work out the mean cost of the presents. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, average, easy. There's 4 friends and we've got total amount, £83.40. Divide it by 4, job done. However, you kind of need to think about this a little bit more. So if we imagine that we've got, here's one friend, here is another, and I'm just going to give each of the friends a different colour. There we go. Now they're all going to give each other presents. So the green person, or person green, is going to go. Now each line represents 1 present. And then blue is going to give 1, 2, 3. Then I should have really done it from the colours of what I gave each person. 3, and then finally 1, 2, 3. So what I need to do here is, so each person is going to give 3 gifts. So 4 times 3 equals 12. So there's a total of 12 presents, because each person is giving 3 presents to each of the other friends. So then from this, what I then need to do is do the total cost, which is £83.40 divided by the 12. And again, if I do that on my calculator, 83.40 divided by 12 gives me an answer of £6.95. And there is your final answer. Then moving on to question 19. It says that a forest has 6,500 trees. The trees are beech or maple. The number of beech to the number of maple is represented by the ratio of 1.6 to 1. What fraction of the trees are beech? So first things first, we need to look at this. Now the fraction is going to be 1.6 over, and then to work out the total for a fraction, we need to add those 2 numbers together. So it's going to be 1.6 plus 1. So that's 1.6 over 2.6. Now the problem is that with this, if you've got a Casio calculator, if you type this into your calculator, so type into your calculator, then it should give you a much better fraction, because one of the key things you need to remember is that you can't write decimals in fractions. So if I type in 1.6 divided by 2.6, it gives me the fraction of 8 over 13. And with question 19b, the question says, write the number of beech to maple in the form of 1 to n. Now, here we've got, if I just write down the numbers next to it, which was to 1. So what we need to do is you look at where the 1 is, and that's the number, this is the one that you want to make equal to 1. So how do I make 1.6 equal to 1? Well, I divide it by 1.6. So then if I do the same to that to both sides, I divide both sides by 1.6, I get 1.6 divided by 1.6, which is 1, and 1 divided by 1.6 on your calculator gives you an answer of 0.625, and there would be your final answer. And again, let me just quickly write down, how did I get that number? All I did was just 1 divided by 1.6. Then moving on to question 20, the question 20 says, a shape is translated by the vector of 0, 4. Which direction does the shape move? Well, again, the top number is left, right, and the bottom number is up, down. So it's not moving left or right, so I can cancel those out. And it's either up or down. Now 4 is positive, so that means it's moving up. Now question 21 says, and this is upper lower bounds, so the question says that length of a table is 110 centimeters to the nearest centimeter. Complete the error interval. Now the nearest centimeter is 1 centimeter. Now from that, what I then need to do is if I divide that by 2, I get half a centimeter. So to find the upper and lower bound, then what I need to do is do 110 minus 0.5, which is 109.5. And then I need to do 110 plus 0.5, which is 110.5. So my lower limit is 109.5 and my upper limit is 110.5. So if this said, let's say, to nearest 10 centimeters, then what I'll do is I divide that by 2, which would equal 5, and then I'll do the amount plus or minus 5 centimeters, plus for the upper limit, take away for the lower limit. Then moving on to the next question. So it says, question 22 says, we've got the sort of formula of k equals n squared plus 9n plus 1. And Mo says that k will be a prime number if all the integer values of n from 1 to 9. Show that Mo is wrong. So what I need to do is I need to substitute n equals 1 to possible 9 into this formula and show that k is not a prime number. So starting off with 1, so when n equals 1, then what I'm going to have is 1 squared plus 9 times 1 plus 1, which gives me 11, so that's prime. So then I try n equals 2, so I've got 2 squared plus 9 times 2 plus 1, which is 4 plus 18 plus 1, which is 22, 23, that's prime. Then I'll let n equals 3, so I've got 3 squared plus 9 times 3 plus 1, so I've got 9 plus 27 plus 1, which is 37, which is prime. I try n equals 4, 4 squared plus 9 times 4 plus 1, so I've got 16 plus 36 plus 1, which is 40, 52, 53, and that's prime. So I try n equals 5, so I've got 5 squared plus 9 times 5 plus 1, so I've got 25 plus 45 plus 1, which gives me 71, which is prime. And then I'm going to try n equals 6, so I've got 36 plus 9 times 6 plus 1, so that's 36 plus 54 plus 1, which gives me 91, and 91 is not prime. And there is our final answer. So after all of that, when n equals 6, it equals 91, and 91 is not prime. So Mo is wrong. Done. Now, in terms of question 23, this is involving simultaneous equations. Now, there are several ways in which we can do this, so I'll just talk you through it. So here we've got 2 t's. So I'm going to represent the t's with the letter T and coffees with the letter C. So what I've got in terms of this, I've got 2t plus 1c equals £3.40. And I've got 1t plus 4 coffees equals £7.30. Now what I want to try and do is try and have the same number of items in each of the 2 orders. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to multiply this whole order by 2. Now multiplying this all by 2, I get 2 teas plus 8 coffees, and that's going to come up to £14.60. Now if I take this order here, the first one, which is 2 teas plus 1 coffee equals £3.40, and I take the 2 orders away, you can see that the difference between the 2 orders is just 7 coffees. And the difference in the price must be the price of 7 coffees. So here it's going to be £11.20. So then if 7 coffees cost £11.20, then 1 coffee is going to cost £11.20 divided by 7, which comes up to a cost of £1.60. And if I take this first order of 2 teas plus 1 coffee equals £3.40, well, I know now that 1 coffee costs £1.60, so I've got 2 tea plus 1.6 equals £3.40, I take that £1.60 over to the other side. So I get 2t's costs, and it's going to be £1.80. So then 1t is going to cost 90p. And so writing this down all underneath, that a tea costs 90p, or I could write it in pounds as 0.90, and a coffee costs £1.60, or 160p. But again, it's entirely up to you which one you want to choose and how you want to write it. Now moving on to question 24, it says that a music festival has taken place each year from 2011. The table shows the number of people who attended each year. The festival organisers draw a time series graph to represent the data. The first 4 years have been plotted for us. So we've been plotted 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next thing we then need to do is plot the rest. Now I can just about see that, but I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can see both the numbers. So 2015, what we need to do is plot as close as possible. Now I need to try and plot something as close as possible to 2023. So I'm going to guess that each of these bars represents 100. So I'm going to say it's somewhere there. For the next one, it's 2600. So that's going to be just above the first block, which is there. Then 3251. So 2 up from there. And then finally 3780, which is close to 3800, which is about there. And then all I then need to do is join the points up with straight lines. Now I'm going to kind of draw this freestyle just to save a bit of time, but I strongly recommend that you use a ruler. Again, could put X's in terms of where it needs to be. Like so. With question 24b, it says use a graph to estimate the number of people who will attend the festival in 2019. Now for this, what we need to do is continue the line of where we think it's going to be. Now, in terms of the directions of where this is looking at, it's probably looking somewhere around there, or even going as far as there. Now, basically with regards to this, we're looking for any particular answer. I would say that's going to go between 4,000 and 4,500. I think would be an acceptable answer to where they think it's going to be. But as long as you've projected your line upwards, then that should be absolutely fine. So I'd say any number between 4,000 and 4,500, and make sure you project the line over to 2019. Then with question 25, it says Doug owes an amount owes the amount of £600. He wants to pay back this amount in 5 months. He says each month I will pay 20% of the amount I owe. Show working to check if his method is correct. Well, okay, so let's have a look. So what we're going to do here is let's have a look at. So he's going to start off with £600. Now 20% of 600 is going to be £120. So what I'm going to do is take away £120, and that gives me his first balance of £480. The next thing I then need to do is take 20% off 480, which is £96. So if I take away £96, I get 480. Take away £96, I get £384. So the next thing I then need to do is work out what 20% of 384 is. So 0.2 times 384, which equals £76.80. So if I take that away from 76.80, I get a balance of, and again, let's quickly change the color. So 384 take away 76.80 gives me an answer of 307.20. So then I need to work out what 20% of 307.2 is. Now, if you're not sure how I'm working out 20% of whatever amount is basically 0.2 times whatever the amount is. So for this one, I'm going to do 0.20 times 307.2, and it gives me an answer of £61.44. So if I take that away, I get a amount of, so 307.2 take away £61.44 gives me a balance of £245.76. So we've got the 5th month to pay, so 20% of 245.76 equals, and that's going to be £49 and 1.52 pence. So now if I take that away, 49.152 take away from 275, so the amount due after 5 months is going to be equal to 245.76 take away £49 and roughly 15 pence, leaves me with a closing balance of 196.61 pence to pay. So Doug's method is incorrect. And why is this not scrolling down? And so you just need to write there that Doug's method is incorrect. And there we go. Now there are several other ways you can do this. You could do this using compound interest. So another way of working this out is starting off with 600 times 0.8, because I'm taking off 20% and doing that for 5 months, equals, and if I type that in, so 600 times 0.8 to the power of 5 equals 196.608, and this is not 0, which is what it should be, so therefore Doug is wrong. So either of those methods were probably the most common, but I would say that's definitely going to be incorrect. So moving on to question 26, it says here is a quadratic graph. Circle the coordinates, the x ordinate of the turning point. Now the turning point is here, and now you can highlight the x ordinate. So the x ordinate is 1 and positive 1, so that's the one I need to circle. For question 27, it says that a motor racing circuit consists of 2 parallel straight sections, each of a length of 1.75 kilometers, a semicircle with a diameter of 0.9 kilometers, 3 equal smaller semicircles. Right, so in the question saying the length of the motor race must be greater than 305 kilometers, what is the lowest number of full laps needed for at this circuit? So what this question is asking me for is to work out the perimeter of this particular shape. Now, in terms of working that out, what I need to do is work out the individual sections. Now, these 3 semicircles are all the same, and this semicircle is one of the parts, and then I've got my 2 straight edges, which are these straight pieces here. So the total perimeter is going to be the 2 blue sections, which is going to be 0.75 plus 0.75, which is 1.5 kilometers. Now the green area, which is a semicircle, now that's going to be pi times the diameter divided by 2, because it's a semicircle. So the green section is going to be pi times the diameter, which is 0.9, or divided by 2. And again, if I type that into my calculator, so 0.9 times pi divided by 2, and that gives me an answer of 9/20 pi. Now I could convert that into a decimal, which is going to be 1.4137166694 kilometers. And the next thing I then need to do is work out what the semicircles are. Now again, it's a semicircle, so it's pi times the diameter divided by 2. Now what I need to do is, you can see here I've got 3 semicircles, and all of this total length is 0.9. So if I do 0.9 divided by 3, that gives me 0.3. So that means each of these semicircles has got a diameter of 0.3. So to work out the red section, then that's going to be pi times 0.3 divided by 2. And I've got 3 of those, so I need to times that then by 3. So working that out, I've got pi times 0.3 divided by 2 times by 3, and I get an answer of 9/20 pi, which is the same as 1.413716694 kilometers. So the total perimeter of the track is going to be these 3 numbers added together. So the total perimeter is going to be 1.5 plus 1.413 plus 1.413, and that gives me a total of 4.3274333388, and that's how many kilometers there are per lap. Now the question is saying that it's got to be greater than 305, so what I've then got to do is do 305 divided by 4.32743388. I've missed out a 3, doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do 305 divided by that number you can see on the screen, and it comes up with 70.780576651. Now in terms of this, now the question is asking for full laps, so therefore it's going to be 71 laps is the minimum that we can have. Then moving on to question 28. So here we're looking at inequality equations, and we've got a negative x. Now for this, what we need to do is, now there's a couple of ways in which you can do this, or how, depending on how you've been taught. I always say when you've got negative x, take it to the front, or move it to the other side. So here what we've got is if I just write it here, so I've got 3 minus a half x. So if I take the half x over to the side by adding a half x, then what I end up with is a half x plus 8 is greater than 3. I then take the 8 over to the side, so I've got a half x is greater than minus 5. I then divide by a half or 0.5, whichever you fancy, and I get the answer of minus 10. And there is your final answer. Now, if you've done it another way, and there is a rule of if I did 5 and took away the 3x, now the general rule is when you're dividing by a negative number, you need to flip the inequality. So I would get this, but if I flip the inequality, and these two symbols here are all the same thing, because the arrow is pointing at the minus 10, and that's all that matters. With question 29, it's looking at trigonometry. So for this, we need to first label the triangle. So labeling the triangle, I've got this is theta. Now this is going to be my opposite. This is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent. Now for this, what I then need to do is decide which trig ratio I'm going to use. Well, I don't use the O because there's nothing on there. So I'm looking for which trig ratio uses A and H, and that is going to be cos. So I've got cos theta equals A over H. So I've got cos theta or cos x equals, and it's going to be 9 over 10. So I've got cos x equals 0.9. And then to get rid of the cos, I need to do inverse cos of 0.9. I don't know why I've put x there. Of 0.9, which equals x. And if I type that into my calculator, so inverse cos of 0.9 gives me an answer of 25.8 degrees to 1 decimal place. And there is our final answer.